Hey everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Minecraft Disney World Q&A. It's been a couple of weeks in the making, but it's finally here. I am joined by four of the very important managers and technicians of the MC Magic server, which is the full recreation of Walt Disney World. I'm joined by EndOfTheEarth, Alex, Mac, and GrailMore. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Hello.
So the idea was, this is a series in which we usually do a Q&A about Disney, all things Disney, from rides to history. But today we're going to be focusing on mcmagic.us, the server. And over the past couple of weeks, I have collected questions from you, the viewer, and I'm going to be passing it on to you four here. And we're going to get to learn a little bit more about MC Magic. So we have user Jared, who asks, how long did MC Magic take to build, or how long did each park in MC Magic take to build?
Well, Alex, you've been here the longest, so when did we start?
Well, when I joined back in August 2011, Magic Kingdom, the original one, had just been started, and it finished building roughly 7 months later, I believe.
Yeah, and then from there, if I recall correctly, Epcot took around 7 months, Hollywood Studios about the same, and then the rebuild of MK took around about 9 months. And we've been working on Animal Kingdom for the better part of a month so far.
It's definitely not a short-term project.
Yeah. Let's head down to the grounds and show the guests what we have of Expedition Everest.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. Darth Corey and I have been working on this for about 2 weeks now, and we have a lot of it done, pretty much complete. We have a completely one-to-one scaled queue that you can walk through and get towards the ride.
Fantastic. Now, I mean, can you speak a little bit about the creation of the queue? Because I know Expedition Everest is, I think, a ride that is known for its queue and the detail into it. Was it particularly challenging compared to other attractions?
To work on the queue, we used videos and pictures from many different sources like YouTube to get a very accurate and detailed recreation of the queue.
Perfect. This actually leads into the second question I was going to ask. User Super Rai Rai asks, how do you guys make everything down to a one-to-one scale? What sort of tricks do you employ?
We have a number of tricks, including a few that we've mentioned in the past. So we do have access to blueprints, we do have access to Google Earth, and we use these for getting as precise measurements as possible. But a new trick that we've been employing is that we've taken some of the blueprints and pictures that we have access to, and we've overlaid a grid pattern over them with a known amount of space between each grid marker. And this allows us to go and make irregular shapes when we aren't able to go and produce it as a polygon like we were able to do with, like, say, Epcot or Hollywood Studios. So because we now have the ability to create all these irregular shapes, making things like Animal Kingdom, which has almost no convenient polygons, has become substantially easier.
This next question comes from Devin on Minecraft. He's looking towards the past, and he asks, do you ever plan on building an old theme park like Magic Kingdom back in 1971, or perhaps old Epcot?
Maybe after we finish the 4 parks. We also are planning on working on the resorts as well, obviously. After all that is done, possibly. But obviously that's a long time in the future, and we still have time to plan all that.
Fantastic. As a personal note, as long as you were to do Horizons, that's all I would need to be the happiest person in the server at all times. That's all I need. Speaking of Everest, so how is it, like, what sort of challenges did you guys run into in terms of, I guess, the redstone or the functioning of the roller coaster, especially the fact that I know Expedition Everest is an attraction that's known to stop and then change directions?
We had many people working on the redstone for track switches, going back and forth, using plugins and vanilla redstone. And from what we can tell, we've created a very accurate recreation.
Mac, are we ready to ride?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Okay. Rob, how about a quick ride through of Expedition Everest?
I would love that. Now, I can hear it, and I just want to point it out if other people can't. The using of the wool sound effect to make the chugging of the train is genius.
As always, we look for as many cute little tricks as we can to make these as immersive as possible.
I'm going to throw out the next question while we're riding. User Copyright Jail asks, do any of the MC Magic cast members work or have worked in the actual Walt Disney World?
Yes, some of them have actually. We do have 2 current CMs that still work in the parks, Fire Salute 524 and Panda Toby. Doug Lionheart has worked at Disney for 22 years, so he was there for a very long time, and Ducky has worked at one of the resorts for many years as well.
Awesome. So there's a big wealth of information from the source directly.
Well, it's a wealth of information about not just the places that people do see, but also the places that people don't see. So when we were designing the utilidors, which you might have seen already or might get to see in a later video, we had people that were able to go into the utilidors and say, oh, well, the cafeteria is arranged roughly like this. So we know that we have even some of the places that guests don't usually see at a 1-to-1 scale, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. Since we're on the ride right now, it would be fitting to talk about rides. User Connor asks, do you guys ever get nervous after building a ride in fear that it won't work or you'll have to redo all of the redstone or something won't go as planned?
To answer that question, we're typically not worried about the ride after it's been used for a while or when we're actually building it. The bit that we're most worried about is when we initially put it on main and we have a massive crowd heading for the ride, because that's usually going to be the heaviest test of the redstone, because we'll have it being used repeatedly, we'll have people jumping out of carts in the middle of it. And so when it first opens, yeah, there's a little bit of nervousness, but typically after that we are able to patch it up and get it working, and then it's pretty calm after that.
It's funny how it's sort of in a art imitating life sort of way. It represents the way a lot of real attractions open, with that sort of those jitters of will it work perfectly or what issues will be run into. Let's see. We have Jakey, who asks, this is for, I guess, for each of you separately. This is for each of you separately. Jakey asks, which park was your favorite to build, or which ride was your favorite to build and work on?
Well, I think that original Magic Kingdom was my favourite to build because it was the one I was most heavily orientated in. So I was one of the few CMs that was on the server. And my favourite ride to build in that was, Splash Mountain, because that was a sole project with the help of a few others. And I was really praised for that.
Awesome. I don't know if in the actual ride, though, guys, the Yeti is supposed to follow us off of the ride.
Okay, since I'm next in line, my favorite so far is actually Animal Kingdom. I'm really enjoying working on Kali River Rapids, which is now done, and I love working on all the paths right now, with all the trees and intricate buildings and whatnot, and it's getting done so quickly. It's amazing, and that's why it's my favorite.
And you know me, I'm an Epcot person, and along those lines, even though my favorite thing to work on was still very much Spaceship Earth, I'm currently working on another project using our fireworks plugin, which hopefully we'll have up at some point in the near future.
Awesome.
that's also involves Epcot. You'll see.
Keep an eye out.
And I love the animal kingdom as well. I love doing terraforming and making everything look nice and natural, and I've just loved building Everest.
Grail, let's move in the direction of Callie.
Okay.
Since I know that you were working on this one the most, could you briefly comment on it?
The ride itself was not the most difficult part of it. It was actually the queue, because the queue is very extensive and intensive when it comes to detail. It was very confusing at first, the queue, because I didn't know the exact layout, and I did remember it. But, I really enjoyed working on it, because I remember the queue specifically last time I was in Animal Kingdom, and I was amazed by the amount of stuff that Disney included in the queue, and I just wanted to try to replicate that as much as possible.
Awesome. I'm going to throw out the next question here. Centurion02 asks, which park took the longest to build? Now, we sort of touched on this on how long it takes to build, but was there a record on which one was the longest?
Current record is Old MK, because we were still learning a lot of the tricks that we use nowadays, and we were still getting a lot of our just basic systems up. But in terms of modern parks, New MK is still the longest, because, you know, anyone who's been to the real Disney World can tell you that Magic Kingdom is the most densely packed of the 4 parks in terms of just stuff to see and do. So it's no surprise there.
And this question is sort of just from me, but approaching New MK, I mean, I know that was sort of like an ongoing project. How did you guys approach it in regards to New Fantasyland, which itself was something that was currently being developed and I guess still is being developed by Disney?
Well, there's several aspects to that. First is that we attempted to go and work on as much of the stuff that we knew was there first. So that was setting up Main Street and the castle and so on. We were initially interested in doing it not just because we knew that New Fantasyland was being built, but also because there was there were a few discrepancies between what we were seeing in Old MK and the reality. So anyone who's been on the server long enough and had a chance to ride Old Space Mountain will probably tell you that the exterior was nice, but the interior left a little to be desired. So in terms of the approach of New Fantasyland, we did have access to some blueprints. We did have access to some video. We did as much as we could and as much as we knew was open. So some of the stuff we were able to get information about really quickly. So the new Little Mermaid ride was something that there just happened to be a lot of information about. So I was able to get that done in about 2-3 days. Whereas we still don't know as much as we would like about the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So that one's still under construction.
Awesome.
Now this ride only allows 3 people at one time, so whoever wants to go on, I guess can go on. I can hold back since I've seen it enough. Okay.
I guess I'm
Don't
going
all
solo.
rush at once.
So these next few questions sort of were gathered by people who are asking and curious about the future of mcmagic.us. So I'm going to throw a few out there. I'm sure a lot of these might be yes or no questions. Plans for Downtown Disney and the water parks?
Yes. After AK is done, and after we're sure that we have all the rides and shows in each park working to our satisfaction, then that's going to be the next project.
Great. Phantasmic. Are we going to see a reworking of Phantasmic at any point in the future?
The thing about that is that we had a number of our cast members and guests at D23 this year, and we heard the news about how that there are plans to go and revise a large chunk of Hollywood studios, especially now that Disney owns the intellectual property to Star Wars. So we want to be sure that Disney's plans along those lines are solidified and won't majorly change the show. So we're waiting on a lot of Hollywood studios refurbishment things and show things until we have a more solid idea of what Disney plans. And in the meantime, we're going to continue focusing on AK and refurbishing Epcot. And we assume that by the time that those two projects are done, Disney will have a more solid idea of what's going to happen there. And so we'll wait.
It's a smart plan. In terms of resorts, there were a lot of questions, surprisingly, about the Wilderness Lodge. I know it was a popular resort, but apparently it's a very popular resort. Are there plans for that in the future?
Yes, actually. After AK, we're going to be working on a few projects, such as the ones End mentioned. We're going to be working on the Epcot refurbishment. We're going to be working on Hollywood Studios refurbishment. And then we're going to also be working on resorts simultaneously. So it will be done in the near future.
Fantastic. Now, this next question is from Dan Mann, and it's actually about sort of the shows that you guys put on. He was wondering, how do you go about picking the CMs that run the shows or wear costume skins or get involved in one of the multiple ways that they do?
Well, so we currently have two different kinds of show setups on the server. We have the ones that do involve live actors, and we have the ones that don't involve live actors. So I'll briefly speak on the ones that don't, and then Grail will talk about the ones that do.
Of course.
With regards to the ones that don't involve as much live acting, we program as much redstone into it as possible. And then if it still involves a little bit of CM use, then then whomever worked on the ride as a technician automatically gets priority for running the show redstone. And then we train additional cast members and guest services from there.
Okay, so the ones that involved acting, such as Fantasmic back when we were still running it, and the indie show that's upcoming, usually the people who choreograph it are usually in the show somewhere as the main people. Oh, welcome back to the exit of Kali, by the way. Usually the people who create the show itself ask other people to be part of it, and shows such as Fantasmic or Indie require many people, so we usually get as many people who are willing to help out because they do have a lot of actors in them. And if we don't have enough CMs doing it, we usually ask interns and then some guests as well.
All right, and so the final question, which I can't attribute to one single user because it's been asked so often when I was grabbing for questions, is the Animal Kingdom. When can we expect to see it opened?
So we expect to open up some of the things that you've seen in this video to all the guests around the time of Minecon. We also intend on opening up the utilidors to guests, so you'll have that to go walk around as well. As for the timeline for AK, on the one hand, it's very detailed, and on the other hand, it doesn't have quite as many attractions as the other park. So if we go by the averages, I think that our good bet is to say that it's going to be done in less than 6 months, but with the pace that we've been moving on this one so far, I wouldn't be surprised if it was done even sooner than that.
So I want to thank you guys, and on behalf, both personally and on behalf of everyone watching, for taking the time to answer all these questions. I mean, it's a fantastic server, and I think any opportunity we have to sort of take a closer look at all the work that goes into it is a great chance. So I want to thank Grail, I want to thank Alex, Mac, and End of the Earth for joining me, giving me this awesome tour of the park that'll be coming out soon, and giving us a little insight as to how this all works.
Thank you
Always
very much.
happy to have you, Rob.
Thank you.
And to everyone watching, I hope you have a fantastic week, month, however much time passes between this video and the next. Make the most of it because it makes it that much better. And I hope to see you all next time for the next episode of the Minecraft Disney World Q&A. Bye, everybody.